Hello students and welcome to video 6 in the IA series, and this video is all about the concept. Now when I originally did this list of videos I didn't have a concept video in there, and I've just added one because it's obviously really important, as we'll see, and I was going to put it into video 5 but there wasn't actually enough time. So let's move on. So looking at the rubric, you can see that integration of key concept is worth 5 marks out of the 25. So other than analysis and evaluation, it's the most important part of the IA. It's literally worth 20% of your IA grade. So it's really, really key, and hence I'm choosing to make a whole video on it. So the concepts, this is the first slide I showed in video 1. As you can see, this is details of the IA, and the IA needs to be concept-based, based on one of the concepts of change, creativity, ethics, and sustainability. So first off, this is the rubric, and this is what you need to do in order to get 5 marks for integrating the key concept. And the key words there are, firstly, we need to integrate the concept chosen and the business, or more accurately, the research question that you're actually answering. And this is really interesting, this use of the word throughout. And if you look at 4 marks, 3 marks, it doesn't actually say that. So the word throughout means throughout the IA, obviously, we need to be using the concept. And I'm going to show you how to do that a little bit later. So the first thing, let's go and define these concepts. Quick warning, there are many ways to define these. So for example, the word change is a fairly common word. There are many ways of defining these words. So I'm just going to give you an example. And then I'm also going to give you an example of how it could be analyzed in an IA, if you like. So a change, one definition is it's a transformation from one state to another. So one thing becomes something else. That's a process of change. So for example, businesses need to adapt in response to various factors. So for a business, there could be new competition, new technology, or new consumer behavior. And in order to survive, businesses will need to adapt, or rather to change. So you could look at change from that perspective. Creativity is the process of generating new ideas or adapting existing ones. We don't always have to have new ideas. We could take current ones and just make, small changes to make them into something slightly different. So one thing you could look at is, well, businesses need to continually create ideas, or do they? That's another thing you could look at. But most businesses would agree that new ideas are good because then it creates innovation in the market. But how do they know which ones to adopt? So not all ideas created we should adopt. So how do they actually make that decision? Ethics, again, this is a very common word. So it's the moral principles that determine what is wrong and right for behavior. And obviously different people, different societies will have a different vision of what ethics actually is. And these moral guidelines will impact how businesses behave and make strategies that influence different stakeholders. So you could look at how ethics cause businesses to make strategies, or in response to changing ethics in society. Sustainability is being able to meet the needs of current generation without sacrificing the need for future generations. So we're able to keep doing something over the long term. And here you could say businesses emphasizing the looking at the triple bottom line rather than just profit. So triple bottom line is profit, people, planet. And it's important to look at social, economic, and environmental sustainability. And if you are doing an IA on sustainability, you could structure the whole IA around social, economic, environmental, or this is people, planet, and profit. So which concepts to choose? How do you go about choosing a concept for your essay? And I think there's 2 ways you could do this. The one at the top is you first choose one of these 4. So you go, okay, I want to do an IA on creativity. Okay, that's the one I really, really want to do. And then what you do is you then go and look for a research question around this. So maybe you go and see that a certain company is doing something which you think is creative, and then you can design the research question around that. That's a really, really good strategy. The other way you could do it is just go and choose a research question that you really like, and then fit one of those 4 concepts that fits that research question. And again, I think that's fine. There are pros and cons here. So with the first one, if you start with the concept, you know that the IA is going to be about that concept. The benefit of the second one is that you can choose a research question that you're really interested in. So with the first one, you might not be able to find something that you really like, whereas with this one, you can kind of choose your favorite question if you like. The danger is that maybe there's not a concept that fits in naturally, so then you have to be a little bit creative how you apply it, or probably better is you go and choose another research question that does fit the concept. So if you can't out of those four concepts, if you can't see one matches your research question well, then you probably need to go and choose another research question. All right, so some possible topics. So just to give you some examples of what a topic might look like for each of them. For change, you could look at how some businesses are. Previously, they said that employees can work at home. Now they're saying you've got to come back to the office. So obviously, there's a change going on there. So you could analyze that. Creativity, you could look at extending the product life cycle of a product. So when we do those extension strategies, obviously, we're adapting current ideas. So that's an example of creativity. Paying employees above minimum wage could, depending on the business, be an ethical decision, because the business could claim that they could just pay minimum wage. So paying above, they believe it's an ethical or moral right thing to do. Sustainability, for example, coffee businesses such as Starbucks using recyclable cups. So that's something that would focus on sustainability. Possible tools and theories that match with each of these. And again, be careful here. These are just examples, and things like profitability ratios could pretty much fit any of them, really. I'm just trying to give you examples here, if you like. So change, maybe you look at profitability ratios before and after a change. Motivation and demotivation. So with the business bringing their employees back to the office, you could apply motivation theories there. How does that impact their motivation going forward, using two of the motivation theories from 2.4? And then obviously location. So creativity, product lifecycle, we talked about. Research and development is being creative by definition. And then Ansoff matrix. So for example, with product development, they're creating new products. So we have that sense of creativity. Ethics, social enterprises are by nature ethical, you could argue. CSR, again, fits into ethics because they have ethical objectives. And stakeholder analysis, we could try to treat people in the right way, if you like. And then sustainability, triple bottom line, circular business models, and lean production all naturally fit in sustainability. So of these, you could argue for sustainability, these three just naturally fit very nicely into sustainability. Okay, on to the last slide. How can we integrate the concept throughout? So one thing you need to do is choose the right concept and link it to your research question. The second thing, remember, was that word throughout. We need to use this concept throughout the essay. So what are ways in which we can do that? Well, one way you could do is to put the concept into the research question. So I mentioned this earlier in the creating a research question video. You don't need to do this. It's not part of the rubric. It's not a rule. But if you did it, it would mean that the concept would just naturally come into your essay. So if you're able to do this, I think it's a really nice thing to do. But again, don't feel you have to. You're not going to lose marks. It just means you're laser focused on that concept throughout. The second thing is I would make the concept stand out in the text. So what I mean by that is in your IA of 1,800 words, every time you write that concept or a variation of that concept, so make it stand out. So you could bold it, you could underline it. And what you're basically doing is, firstly, you're communicating with yourself that you're using the concept because you have to use it. Secondly, you're communicating with the reader. I'm using a concept. I know what I'm doing. I know what the rubric is. And again, it just makes you look like you're being professional and you know what you're talking about. When I'm in a variation, you could use the word ethics or ethical or ethically. Any variation of that word would all be use of that concept, and I would then sort of bold it or something like that. And then use the concept throughout. So you could put it into the research question. You must put it on the title page, as we looked at on the previous video about structuring your IA. In the introduction, I would have a small paragraph, maybe in the methodology, state which concept you're using, define it, and explain why you're using it. So in this research question, I'm using ethics because, and then you're justifying why it fits your research question. In the main body, consistently refer back to it as part of your evaluation and analysis. So let's say, as per the last video, I recommended having 3 sections to your I main body. In each of those 3 sections, you want to be referring to the concept. And you could do that as part of, at the end of that main section. How you could then go back to your research question and apply the concept there. And in the conclusion, have your conclusion with reference to the concept, so use it throughout the conclusion. And then you could say, what does your conclusion say about the concept? So how does your research question and conclusion actually help you make any, learn about that concept and what it means in a business context? All right, that is the concept done. I'll see you next time.